Joshua! Get into my vehicle now! Walk towards me! Walk towards me! Keep walking towards me! Keep walking towards me! Keep walking! Keep walking! Towards me! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Put your hands out now! Hands out! Put your hands behind your back!
This is the 67-year-old man who shot dead his daughter's ex-partner and her ex-partner's father. After committing the crime, he was arrested on the M5 motorway 2 hours later. What could have made a 67-year-old man kill two people like that? Behind this case is a heartbreaking tragedy. The real victim was a 7-year-old grandson who was robbed of both his father and grandfather in just one fateful night. Get ready to join us in this shocking case. And before you start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next crime stories. Stephen Alderton, 67, is a British man who used to live in Cambridgeshire, Eastern England. After his wife passed away, his life fell into a state of isolation and silence. No longer attached to the family home, he moved to live alone in a camper van, a type of mobile vehicle converted to serve as a temporary residence. The vehicle was often parked in vacant lots or remote areas near his old residence. Neighbors described him as a reserved, quiet person, living separately and having almost no clear social relationships. The secluded, lonely life and unresolved trauma after his wife's death seemed to have gradually made Stephen's psychology unstable. Stephen Alderton had a small, happy family in Cambridgeshire, England. He lived with his wife and had an only daughter, Samantha. The family lived in a stable home until tragedy struck. His wife died, leaving him alone in his old age. Samantha Alderton was the only daughter of Stephen Alderton and was at the center of the family tragedy that led to this shocking murder. As an adult, Samantha had a long-term relationship with Joshua Dunmore, a man from Cambridgeshire. The relationship quickly blossomed and resulted in the birth of a son. However, not long after the child was born, Samantha and Joshua's relationship began to unravel and they eventually split. Despite their separation, the two remained in touch to co-parent their son, and Joshua remained active in the child's life. Samantha's life took a new turn when she met and married Paul Stephen, a U.S. Air Force soldier who was deployed to RAF Mildenhall in England. This marriage gave Samantha hope for a stable and promising future in the United States. Late 2022. When Paul received his transfer order back to the U.S., Samantha began planning to bring her son to settle down and start a new life with her husband. However, this decision was met with strong opposition from Joshua Dunmore, the child's biological father. For him, having his son sent to a country thousands of miles away was no different than being deprived of his parental rights. He feared losing connection, losing custody, and affecting his son's development. The conflict then escalated into a tense, protracted, and emotional legal battle between the two sides, pushing Samantha into a deadlock, torn between maternal love and the desire for a new life for her current family. On the 27th of March 2023, at Cambridgeshire Family Court, a legal battle between two people who once loved each other, now fighting over the most important thing, the custody and future of a 7-year-old child, was heard. The plaintiff in the case is Samantha Alderton. The defendant is Joshua Dunmore, the child's biological father, a single father determined to remain a presence in his son's life. Samantha asked the court to allow her to take her son to Ohio, USA, to live with her new husband, who has just been ordered to return to the U.S. after serving at RAF Mildenhall. Samantha believes that family reunification in the U.S. will provide her son with a better living environment, more emotional and economic stability. She pledged to maintain contact with her biological father through online platforms and arrange for her son to visit during long holidays. Joshua, however, was vehemently opposed. He argued that sending his son across the ocean would completely disrupt their otherwise close and loving father-son relationship. He had been taking care of him regularly, attending his son's studies, health checks, and school events. and felt that physical presence could not be replaced by video calls. Joshua feared that once his child moved to the US, that bond would fade, especially since the child was too young to actively maintain the bond. He also cited the father's rights under British family law, arguing that an administrative decision should not destroy the emotional foundation he had worked so hard to build. In court, Samantha's attorneys stressed the importance of the marital stability and financial security that her husband, a military man with a stable job and benefits in the US, could provide for their small family. They described Joshua as conservative and inflexible in his unconditional opposition to Samantha's desire to move forward. Joshua's side, in contrast, focused on the deep bond he had with his son. They presented evidence from teachers, social workers, and even the child's own diary that Joshua was not just a paper father, but a real emotional pillar. A child psychologist who was called in also warned that a sudden move at this age can have a negative impact on a child's emotional and developmental development, especially if there is a lack of a constant bond with the father. In addition, Joshua also mentioned that Samantha had shown a lack of transparency in decisions related to her child, such as announcing the move on the day of the move, or not telling him about her child's new study plan in the US. This made Joshua suspicious that once granted, Samantha would not guarantee the father's access as promised. After nearly a day of work, the Cambridgeshire family court decided Samantha was temporarily not allowed to take her child to the US. The child will continue to reside in the UK, where she is studying and maintaining a stable life with the regular presence of her biological father. The judge stated, "The child's best interests lie not only in physical conditions or a new environment, but also in psychological and emotional stability. Separating the child from one of the two people with whom he or she is closely attached would cause serious psychological harm, and that would not serve the child's interests at this time. The ruling is not final, but it is a legal turning point. It all but destroys Samantha's dream of moving to America, at least in the short term. For Joshua, it is a major victory that allows him to protect his role as a father and continue to accompany his child." The scary thing is that the tension did not end in court. For Samantha, it was a culmination of frustration and impasse. For her father, Stephen Alderton, it was a tipping point of pent-up anger and a vision of self-justice. He had followed the case closely, sending threatening text messages if the court did not rule in his daughter's favor. When the verdict was announced, Stephen refused to accept defeat, viewing it as an insult and injustice to his daughter. On the evening of the 29th of March, 2023, just 2 days after the family court refused to allow Samantha to take her son to the United States, Stephen Alderton, 67, decided to carry out the murder plan he had secretly prepared in advance. For several days before, Stephen secretly watched the homes of Joshua Dunmore, Samantha's ex-boyfriend and the biological father of the child, as well as the home of Gary Dunmore, Joshua's father. He even took photos, noted his travel habits, and carried a legal Beretta shotgun and ammunition in the camper van he was living in after his wife died. At approximately 9:09 p.m., Stephen drove to Joshua's home in Bluntisham, Cambridgeshire. He got out of the car, carrying a gun, and approached the front door. As Joshua opened the door, Stephen fired 2 shots, one to the chest and one to the head. Joshua died at the scene, having no chance to fight back. Stephen left immediately after the crime, but he did not stop there. Less than 30 minutes later, at around 9:40 p.m., he drove to the home of 65-year-old Gary Dunmore in Sutton, about 10 miles from the first scene. As Gary arrived home, Stephen fired 4 shots, 3 of which hit his target, causing him to collapse and die at the scene. Neighbors who heard the gunshots immediately called the police. In less than an hour, 2 lives were taken in a cold and calculated double murder. By the time police arrived at both scenes, both victims were dead. Using witness statements and ANPR cameras, police quickly identified the suspect as Stephen Alderton. A manhunt was launched overnight, At around 1:30 a.m. on the 30th of March, armed police stopped Stephen's camper van on the M5 near Worcester, nearly 200 kilometers from the scene. After ordering him to get out of the car and lie down, the police arrested him without resistance. They seized the Beretta shotgun, the murder weapon, and a full box of ammunition.
Vehicle slowing, vehicle slowing, vehicle slowing, stand by, stop. Oh, please! You! Get out of the car! Get out of the car! You can see her! Get out of the car! Get out of the vehicle now! Walk towards me! Walk towards me! Keep walking towards me! Keep walking towards me! Keep walking! Keep walking! Towards me! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Put your hands out now! Hands out! Put your hands behind your back!
Immediately after being arrested in the early hours of the 30th of March 2023 on the M5 motorway, Stephen Alderton was taken to the police station for formal questioning. Here, he did not deny his actions, but instead showed a cold, indifferent attitude. During the interrogation, Stephen admitted that he had planned in advance and knew that his actions were against the law. When asked about his motives, he calmly said, "Sometimes you have to do what you have to do, even if it's wrong in the eyes of the law." The police determined that this was not a sudden act of anger, but a deliberate and carefully prepared murder. During the interrogation, he did not show any remorse or fear, but on the contrary, expressed a distorted belief that he was doing the right thing to protect his daughter. The coldness in Stephen's attitude and words made the interrogation even more chilling, deeply reflecting the extreme and distorted thinking of a father who turned love into crime. After collecting enough testimony and evidence, the police formally charged him with 2 counts of murder and sent the case to the Cambridge High Court for trial. Stephen Alderton's trial opened at Cambridge High Court in October 2023, attracting widespread attention from the British public. Here, the 67-year-old man faced 2 charges of aggravated murder. At the beginning of the trial, Stephen pleaded guilty without contest, admitting all his actions in court. Prosecutors described it as a cold-blooded, deliberate and calculated murder, carried out of revenge to protect his daughter from losing a custody battle. Evidence gathered from cameras, witnesses, and the gun and ammunition found in Stephen's car all supported the conviction. The court noted that Stephen had planned the murders in advance, stalked the victims' homes for days, and carried out the murders with extreme brutality, without giving the victims any opportunity to fight back. In sentencing, the judge emphasized the extremely serious nature of the case and criticized Stephen's way of taking the lives of others for his own personal motives. On the 23rd of October, 2023, the court sentenced Stephen Alderton to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 25 years. However, after reviewing the degree of cruelty and obvious premeditation, the Court of Appeal increased the minimum sentence to 30 years in prison in January 2024. The sentence fully reflects the seriousness of the case and has left a deep echo in British society as a warning lesson about the dire consequences of extremism and violence disguised as family affection. After the shocking murder, Samantha Alderton and her new husband, Paul Stephen, a U.S. soldier, were summoned by the police and investigated for possible involvement in her father's murder. However, after a thorough investigation, the authorities determined that there was no evidence that they had any prior knowledge or involvement in the murder plot, and therefore no criminal charges were filed. However, the legal and social consequences did not stop there. Samantha and Joshua's 7-year-old son, the child at the center of the custody battle, was temporarily placed in the child care system by social services due to the family's complex circumstances and the risk of serious mental health problems. Over the next 15 months, Mandy Saymark, Joshua's mother and the child's biological grandmother, fought a tough legal battle to gain custody of her grandson. After a rigorous process of assessment and evaluation by the courts and child protection agencies, Mandy was finally granted custody of her grandson, ending a painful but loving and responsible journey. It was not only a legal victory, but also a testament to the perseverance of a grandmother determined to protect the only thing left of her son. This case is a profound and painful warning about the consequences of blind revenge and extreme use of physical force. When intense emotions surpass reason and the law is considered normally, tragedy is inevitable. In this story, innocent people, especially a child of only 7 years old, became the most painful victims, losing their father, losing their grandfather, and being caught in a spiral of pain, separation, and mental trauma that is difficult to heal. The case did not end with a sentence for the crime, but also left a lingering wound in the hearts of the survivors. As a warning lesson for all societies, that love, if not accompanied by wisdom and limitations, it can become a knife that kills the very things we want to protect. After following this case, what do you think about Stephen Alderton's actions? Is he a father who loves his daughter so much that he loses his mind? Or is he simply a dangerous person who uses family love to justify his crimes? If you were the judge in this case, what would be your verdict? Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next stories, and join us on our journey to uncover shocking cases. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next video, where another truth is waiting to be revealed.